Hi, I'm Derek Watts. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. Here's a couple of disclaimers before I start this podcast. I am not a professional counselor or therapist of any kind. Please contact a counselor or therapist to work out your problems if you need assistance with social issues. And the most important disclaimer is to understand that I am not attacking people. My goal is to call out hypocrisy and hate groups such as white supremacy, neo-Nazis, fascism, and any other hate group or types of people that hate. When I say white people, it is not meant as all white people. Only those that hate and design themselves to be hateful. Otherwise, thank you for listening and enjoy the podcast. Welcome to another edition of After the Coffee Break. I'm Derek Watts. Thank you for joining me. It took some patience, work, and I mean hard work to try to do today's episode. So if I may be real, it's going to be hard to get through this, but I'm going to get through it regardless because these conversations need to happen. And when I talk to my therapist is like, you have to keep doing this. These conversations has to be made aware of the issues that it pertains to. So painstaking hard work and listening to clips and speeches and videos I absolutely did not want to listen to. I had to go through with it. But there's only one clip today that I'm going to play that's going to set the stage for everything else that I am going to talk about, because it always has to be a particular clip for me to be set off. So today, we're going back to Inauguration Day, MLK Day. Is what I'm going to really call it, is MLK Day. There was something that Trump said in that speech that I want everybody to listen to. And then we're going to talk about it. Let's take a listen.
The Black and Hispanic communities, I want to thank you for the tremendous outpouring of love and trust that you have shown me with your vote. We set records, and I will not forget it. I've heard your voices in the campaign, and I look forward to working with you in the years to come. Today is Martin Luther King Day, and his honor, this will be a great honor. But in his honor, we will strive together to make his dream a reality. We will make his dream come true. Thank you. Thank you.
So when you look at this video, if you're watching this on video, you would actually get to see a visual of it. Otherwise, you just have to visualize everything that I'm talking about through audio, if you're listening to it on audio. My video, the video that I'm doing is on YouTube on the Afternoon Coffee Break YouTube page. You can find it. Just search Afternoon Coffee Break there and watch it. You can find it. But when you're looking at this video, you have to ask, what does he really mean by that? When he's talking about unity in MLK Day, when he's talking about an honor on MLK Day, what does he really mean? But this isn't the question that I asked myself. This is just a general question. But the question I really asked, and I really actually want to answer the question based on experience, is this. Why is it that former Vice President Kamala Harris was sitting when Donald Trump made that statement? Why was she sitting? And why did she look unamused? Let's talk about it because it's for good reason. Just by reading the room, literally just sitting down and reading the room, when you're watching that speech, you can look at each and every one of these buffoons and tell that they have no idea either the real true meaning of what MLK said about unity, or they cared, or they listened and recognized it but didn't give a damn, and that's why Trump keeps coming with this MAGA, make America great again type America. So when you're thinking about these things, former Vice President Kamala Harris is like, these are people that do not understand what MLK is talking about. And if they understand it, they just don't care. And it's absolutely the truth. They just do not care. Because here's the bottom line. As soon as he said that, right after that speech, the first thing he did was sign legislation. I think like 4 or 5 of them that day. And then I think another 2 or 3 maybe the following day. But he signed several of them in the span of 2 days based on DEI. Ending illegal discrimination and restoring merit-based opportunity, which is MEI. Now, mind you, this is before MEI is before the Civil Rights Act of 1965, which is exactly the reason why MLK was arguing and fighting for freedom and not be judged based on your skin color. If you look at the executive order, one of them anyway, because there's many of them, and I'm not going to go through all of them. This is something you can look at yourself. But some of it, 2 of them that he talked about was illegal DEI. And DEIA policies not only violate the text and spirit of our longstanding federal and civil rights law, they also undermine our national unity as they deny, discredit, and undermine the traditional American values of hard work, excellence, and individual achievement in favor of unlawful, coercive, and pernicious identity-based spoiled system. Hardworking Americans who deserve a shot at the American dream should not be stigmatized, demeaned, or shut out of opportunities because of their race and sex. But yet you turn right around and did this executive order when MLK literally said in his speech that he does have a dream that everybody can unite, paraphrasing, that everybody can be united by race or the color of their skin, and that they should not be discriminatory by that. That was the whole, again, it was the whole purpose of the Civil Rights Act of 1965. These illegal EDI and DEIA policies also threaten the safety of men, American men, women, and children across the nation by diminishing the importance of individual merit, aptitude, hard work, and determination when selecting people for jobs and services in key sectors of American society, including all levels of government and the medical, aviation, and law enforcement communities. Yet, in the case of a tragic case, the American people have witnessed firsthand the disastrous consequences of illegal, pernicious discrimination that has prioritized how people was born instead of what they were capable of doing. So again, he's not understanding DEI. He's not understanding MLK's real dream and what he wanted. Because the fact is that what DEI is just that. It's literally hiring people based on the capability of things that they can do and not just by their race. And when you think about it, you take a look at what he's already doing with MEI, hiring Linda McMahon as Department of Education, no experience needed. PSS, Defense Secretary, no experience in that type of leadership. He was in the military, but not literally a person that is qualified for leadership, constantly drinking, really have no brain for the job. These are MEI hires, period. RFK, RFK Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr., another one. Really do not have any background in health, really just in environment. But he's going to lead our health department. This man looks like he's 100 years old, but only probably in his late 60s, early 70s. This is the MEI hire. The American people, 77 million people, hired a convicted felon to be president of the United States. And everybody's wondering and shocked at his actions. Nobody should be shocked at his actions. Instead, people should be out on the streets, and which is what a lot of people are doing. Federal employees are getting fired left and right is unbearable. Ending racial and wasteful government DEI programs and preferencing was another one of his executive orders, and the last one I'm sharing. The purpose and policy, the Biden administration for illegal and immoral discrimination programs going by the name Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, DEI, into virtually all aspects of the federal government in areas ranging from airline safety to the military. This was a concerted effort stemming from President Biden's first day in office when he issued Executive Order 13985, advancing racial equity and supportive of underserved communities throughout the federal government. Now, let's just be real for a minute. Hypothetical. If Joe Biden didn't understand MLK's dream and what he wanted in reality to be equal, he sure understood with this executive order because he listened. He listened. While Donald Trump don't understand because he's a babbling buffoon that just did not listen to anything anybody got to say. He only listens to what he want to hear. Instead, he don't want to hear what he needs to hear. Which, in my personal opinion, you should not be president. Right now, you should be in a 6x6 jail cell. You shouldn't even been on the docket for people to vote. He should have been on it. Period. But for some reason, this is the fight that Democrats are having an issue with. Because that should have been stopped. And just like now, with everything that's going on, not enough is being done. Pursuant to Executive Order 13895, the following on orders in nearly every federal agency and entity submitted equal actions plan to detail a way that they have furthered DEI infiltration of the federal government. The public release of these plans demonstrated immense public waste and shameful discrimination. That is today. Americans deserve a government committed to serving every person to equal dignity and respect, and to expanding precious taxpayers' resources only to make America great. I wonder if anybody actually sat down and took a look at what make America great what make America great again really means. If you just go back and sit down and just take a minute to research, you might understand why he's rolling out a lot of these executive orders and pointless executive orders, because yet and still we still have not seen what he said he was going to do on day one. As a alleged king, which he would never will be, price of eggs has not gone down, the price of has not gone down. The prices of groceries has not gone down, it's gone up tremendously. He's throwing tariffs on everything. And he keeps pulling them back because he don't have an idea what he's doing. He didn't know what he was doing on his first term, and he sure as hell don't know what he's doing on his second term. And I'm going to tell you something else. While I'm sitting here on this rant, Indiana Governor Mike Braun is just as worse as him. These are two businessmen that should not be in office. Period. But the state of Indiana decided that there was going to be some babbling buffoons and pick a man that is not qualified to be governor of Indiana. I'm going to be real with you. Eric Holmco was a hell of a lot better governor than Mike Braun already. And I'm just being real. Implementation, the Director of His Office Management and Budget, the OMB, Assistant the Attorney General and the Director of Office of Personnel Management, OPM, shall coordinate the determination of all discriminatory programs, including illegal DEI and diversity, equity, and exclusion and accessibility, the DEIA, mandates, policies, programs, purposes, and activities of the federal government under whatever name they appear. To carry out this directive, the Director of OPM, with the assistance of the Attorney General, as requested, shall review and revise as appropriate all existing federal employee practices, union contracts, and training policies or programs to comply with this order. Federal government practices, including federal employees reviews, shall reward individual initiatives, skills, performances, and hard work, and shall not, under any circumstances, consider DEI or DEIA factors, goals, policy, mandates, or requirements. That's my problem. Look at how many qualifications people have that's in government. But you pick majority of them as TV personalities. Linda McMahon, Pete Hesse, Dr. Oz. I think. I haven't heard that name in a minute. I'm not sure if he actually got confirmed in something or not, to be honest. But allegedly right now, Dr. Oz. I mean, there's so many TV personality people you can't even possibly keep up. So you're wondering, with this, he's calling illegal DEI or DEIA factors, I'm trying to figure out what qualifications does your cabinet have? None of them have any qualifications or is good at anything. So I just struggle with that. So when you're talking about these DEI orders and not DEI orders, but these executive orders, you have to wonder, again, going back into that speech, why was Vice President Kamala Harris sitting? There's the answer. She already knew it was coming because he already said he was going to do it. And most people just didn't realize how serious he was, or knew how serious he was, and wanted change to happen. But didn't realize that he was going to do it for everybody, rather if he voted for him or not. He said, "Oh, thank you for your vote. Now you can go fuck off," is what he told his own supporters, in a way. And he always sat there and said, "Oh, I don't know anything about Project 2025. He don't know nothing about Project 2025. But most of his executive orders apply under Project 2025. Here's one of them. The next conservative president must make the institutions of American civil society hard targets for woke cultural warriors. This starts with deleting the terms sexual orientation and gender identity, the SOGI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, gender equality, gender equity, gender awareness, gender sensitive, abortion, reproductive health, reproductive rights, and any other terms used to deprive Americans of their First Amendment rights of every federal rule, agency, regulation, contract, grant, regulation, and piece of legislation that exists. All you have to do, literally, is go back to the podcast idea, the run of the presidential election, and it's laid out based on what Project 2025 wanted done and what was going to be done. Matter of fact, one of the Project 2025 writers are in the office, is it the Office of Budget Management or OPM? Howard Lutnick. I don't remember which office he's in, but he controls that. And he is one of the authors of Project 2025. So when people say he wasn't a part of it, why is this man and half of his executive orders are a part of Project 2025? Here's another one. And what I just previously read was literally just the foreword, an introduction of part of the promises. This was promise one. This text here is just in the language of Project 2025. The noxious tenets of critical race theory and gender identity should be excised from curricula in every public school in the country. These theories poison our children who are being taught on the one hand to affirm that the color of their skin fundamentally determines their identity to even their moral status, while on the other they are taught to deny the very creaturelessness and inheres in being human being and accepting the givingness of our nature as men and women. Allowing parents or physicians to reassign the sex of a minor is child abuse and must end. For public institutions to use taxpayer dollars to declare the superiority or inferiority of certain races, sexes, and religion is a violation of constitutional and civil rights law and cannot be tolerated by any government anywhere in the country. So this is their language. Now, I'm not going to sit back and try to sit here and dissect every single one of them, but these are just the point that I'm just making. DEI was part of the agenda. People were always saying that he knew nothing about it, but it is literally written in black and white if he just really took a minute to read it. Most people didn't know what a tariff was until after the election. This is why America lacks education, because they depend on people being stupid. And I'm just being 100 for real. They depend on people to be stupid so they can continue to use the American people to get what they want. Just like with this damn budget that the Republicans passed in the House. Most people do not understand that most of the money that is coming out is coming from Medicaid. But what they don't know is how it is titled as well. It is under subcategories. So when you're talking about this budget, you have to understand what you're looking at. I think Medicaid is under the Department of Commerce or something along those lines, because that is part of Medicaid. That's part of Medicare. Think about it. Just think about it. Another section. Diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda. The USAID is installed advisors on diversity, equity, and inclusion committees in all of the Bureau's offices and oversees missions, and created agency-wide dashboard in the EDI scorecards from all Bureau's offices and missions to track staff compliance with the administration's DEI directives. A chief DEI executive officer oversees this DEI infrastructure and sits within the administrator's office. The DEI directives are now part of all agency policies and are incorporated as standard clauses in all contracts and grants awards. Those seeking to do business with the agency must describe the approaches they will use to diversify their partners' place. USAID often ties the DEI to gender and climate and equity, corrupting every aspect of the agency's overseas work. The next conservative administration should dismantle the USAID DEI apparatus by eliminating the chief diversity officer position along with DEI advisors and committees. Not to mention that they just eliminated USAID overall. Forget this part, they just eliminated it overall. So, in continuation, cancel the DEI scorecards and dashboards, remove DEI requirements from contracts and grant tenders and rewards. Issue a directive to see promotional DEI agenda, including a bully LGBTQ plus agenda. Provide a staff of confidential mediums through which to adjudicate cases of political retaliation that agencies are implementing staff suffers during the Biden administration. It should eliminate funding for partners that promote discriminatory DEI practices and consider disbarment and egregious cases. So when we sit here and we think about DEI overall, when you think about it, Trump went in and fired everybody pretty much, from FFA to HHS, and had to hire some of it back. And, if you watch the news, you should be familiar with it. But the bottom line is that he got rid of some of the especially with the FFA, all because of Elon Musk's. Let's just be mindful of that. And let's also be mindful of why DEI is important. Because if you don't have the people that qualifies, you're going to get some dummies in there that has no idea what the hell they're doing. So let's talk about it. Since January 20th, 2025, up until probably about February, there has been a total of 94 aviation accidents in 2025, according to the data of the National Transportation Safety Board. There were 63 instances in January and 31 in February. The agency said as of Wednesday, and I believe it was around February the 11th or the 13th, something of that nature. There has been several major deadly U.S. aviation disasters this year. They happened within a span of 2 weeks in Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Alaska, and Arizona. And of course, that don't include anything past February 13th. Yet, January 29th crash in Washington that killed 67 people is the only fatal commercial aviation crash in 2025 in the past 15 years. In the past 15 years, that was 2005. So when you think about that, you have to think about that this is an MEI hire. Because I forgot who Donald Trump hired. He hired some guy to run the FFA, and now planes are literally just falling out of the sky. So you have to be mindful who you hire. You gotta know what the position is for and what they're going to be doing with this, and can they handle it? Because if you watch the Mayday documentary of air disasters, you would be amazed at some of the things that some of these pilots have to go through in order for them to not only survive, but know what they're facing if they're going to die. And I don't think that most people really truly understand that. They really just don't. And I think that the Trump administration, including Trump himself, just do not understand what the FFA really, really does, and why they really need extensive training in order for them to be able to be efficient on the job. Because flying these airplanes and being in the traffic control center is not an easy job. It's just not an easy job. Period. So when we're looking at DEI, you have to think about what is the definition of the DEI: diversity, equity, and inclusion. Of course, it's an acronym, but it's a set of practices that policies. It's practices and policies that aim to create a more welcoming and inclusive society. DEI is based on the idea that everyone should have the opportunity to participate fully and be treated fairly. And MEI don't necessarily do that. They just hire people that they want their best buddy to be in that position. Diversity. A variety of ways that people differ, including in race, ethnicity, gender, and more. Recognizing and celebrating the differences that make people unique. When you look at President Obama's office or his administration, you can look at how diverse it was. Different ideas, different races, different culture, different ethnicities. There was just so many of them. You couldn't keep track of it. You could, but, it's just the point that when you look at Trump's administration, you only see white people and maybe one black person. And that's not DEI. That's not diversity. It's just not. Equity. Ensuring that people have the resources they need to access the same opportunities, and identifying and removing barriers that prevent some groups from participating fully. I think I'm going through an experience with that with my current job of not having the equality or equity to be able to be on the level of some people. because of the work that I do requires me that I should be able to have access to some things, and they won't let me have it. But they will absolutely let a brand new person come in and have access to it, allegedly. And I'm just sitting out here in the dark. And I think that's just kind of annoying, though. That's just the whole point. You got to be able to know and understand that within the team, you're going to need to have access to the same opportunities and the same resources. And in inclusion, create an environment where everyone feels valued and respected, welcoming and supporting people with different needs and perspective, and inviting everyone to contribute and participate. If you look at Trump's administration, how many people do you see on there that are welcoming and supporting people with different needs and perspectives? I don't count a whole lot of them. As a matter of fact, I don't think I can count any of them. They want to tear down the Department of Education. When you look at polling, most of the polling shows that a lot of people oppose the dismantling of the Department of Education. DEI is the same way. They're not welcoming and supporting people with different needs and perspective, not even to their own cabinet. How many people in the federal government feel like that they have an environment where everyone feels valued and respected? Marjorie Taylor Greene went out and said that none of the federal workers deserve paychecks or deserve anything because they're just a waste. That's not creating an environment where everyone feels valued and respected. It's just not. There's nothing in that administration that is creating an environment where everybody feels valued and respected. In fact, they feel the contrary. They feel like they've been through hell and back. They're scared, they're confused, they don't know what to do, they don't know what their future looks like, they don't know how they're going to be able to get their paycheck with the work that they have done. They keep firing people and then bringing people back. And then USAID got completely dismantled, failing to realize that USAID is a very useful program that conservatives think that it's just a waste. It's not an environment where everyone feels valued and respected. And people around the globe is feeling that. And they're looking at the U.S. like, you have got to be kidding me right now. And all of these Christian nationalists and white supremacists, when they want to show their Bibles and show off their Bible scriptures, they fail to realize that part of being and knowing Jesus is that you have to be able to understand people, and you're going to have to be able to help people. And that's what JFK did in creating the USAID. But they turned right around and turned it down many years later, many decades and years later. Let's just be real. There's nothing about DEI in that administration. And that's why they turned it down. That's not the environment they want. They want everybody to be independent, but they have to understand that people with disabilities cannot be independent. They have to be able to still afford to live life, but still do the best that they can. And that's what the federal government is supposed to be. Their own government is supposed to be there for. But they just want everybody to be independent without welcoming or understanding anything about their lives. Period. They are the worst type of people. The worst type of people. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 explained exactly what MLK wanted in America. The dream that he had. It was signed into law by President Lyndon B. Johnson on July 2nd, 1964, and it prohibited discrimination in public places. That meant even the workplaces. That was the whole purpose in the EEOA. That was the whole purpose in that as well. Civil Rights Act. Public places provided for integration of schools. That was the whole purpose in desegregation after the Jim Crow days. The integration of schools and other public facilities, and made employment discrimination illegal. That was the whole purpose in Brown v. the Board of Education. That was the most sweeping civil rights legislation since Reconstruction. They went through hell and back to get this piece of legislation signed into law. JFK got killed before they voted it into law, and MLK got killed after, 3 years after it was signed into law. This just shows you how evil Americans can be. It shows you how evil they can be. So when you think about this presidency, it has absolutely nothing to do with love and care and everything else. It has everything to do with hate and division. They always want to talk about this administration, want to talk about, oh, the love that they have. They have no love. Just start here. Just start with DEI. Just start with the dismantling of DEI with executive orders. Just start there. But thanks for listening. I'm Darren Watts. That's all I have. I wish I could, go into more. I might go into more with a whole nother part of it at a later time. But right now, I just wanted to get this off my chest, get it out there so everybody can be aware and understand DEI and have conversations about it. You can email me, coffee break with DarrenWatts@gmail.com. You can find me on Instagram as well, too. You can find me on Instagram and have conversations as well. We need to have conversations. We need to be able to wing this and kind of just go in a different direction from what the Trump administration is trying to do right now. I'll have another episode out. I don't know when, but we're going to have another episode. We're going to have another conversation, whatever comes to my mind. But until then, open-mindedness is personal growth.
Darren Watts created, edited, produced, and wrote this podcast. Harrison Atmer is the theme music creator. The name of the theme song is Colorized.